Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you are doing well, and we are super excited to be able to have this discussion. I have Shehara on with me, and she's going to talk a little bit about herself before we dive in. But the topic of solo aging is what we're going to be getting into today and raising some awareness of this overlooked yet important and crucial conversation that people in our age range, above, close to us, should be considering now in order to position ourselves for a life that is really joyful, comfortable, as long as we're taking breath. And so, with that said, my name is Nicole Bronson, and I am a 20-year educator. And I also recently joined the ranks of being a woman in tech, a Black woman in tech at that. And so I've had the fortune over my education to support school districts and district leaders, school leaders, principals, teachers, instructional coaches. And now with my company, CoFit 365, I really have the opportunity to think about our communities and building healthier and stronger communities. And that happens one person at a time. And so, with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Shahara, who's going to talk a little bit about herself, and then we'll get into our conversation for today.
Great. Thank you so much, Nicole. I'm so happy to have this conversation with you and congrats on getting into tech. That's exciting. That's wonderful. Yeah, so again, I'm Shahara Wooten and I'm a certified financial planner. I'm also a financial life planner strategist, and I have two companies. One is Your Story Financial and then Your Story Financial Academy. And mainly what I do is financial empowerment. So my big focus at this stage is really looking at and helping Black women, STEM professionals who feel stuck, they feel frustrated, they're overwhelmed, maybe they don't know what they don't know, help them really get to a place where they have a plan and that they then have peace of mind, and they feel safe and secure knowing that they have a financial plan and financial security so they don't have to rely on anyone for their future. And so, really helping Black women in STEM become financially independent. That's like my biggest goal. And I'm a career changer myself. And I come from an engineering background, and that is what really drew me to helping Black women in STEM. I do help overall STEM, but my heart has been specifically geared towards Black women, just because of my story and what I would like for everybody to experience in terms of their wealth building journey. And it's just been exciting. So, coming up, similar to you, coming up here in August, it'll be 20 years since I changed careers and got into the financial services profession. So, I'm excited about that. Been doing this for a while, and it's just amazing, just the evolution. And I'm excited about this conversation.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know we thank you. I know I've had the opportunity to work with you along my financial journey. And so I appreciate you. And that career change wasn't just beneficial for you, it was beneficial for us too. So
Yes, I love it.
celebrating that 20-year anniversary come August.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
So, getting into our topic for today, solo aging, when we'll jump right in.
Mhm.
You posted something, and which is what made this all come about. And so the first thing is, what is solo aging? That's my first question for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So solo aging, it's really, and I'm actually going to, I always like to read the textbook definition, right? So when I first heard it, it was described as being an elder orphan, but an elder orphan, that just who likes that term, right? But they added in elder orphan or solos, are individuals who by choice or circumstances function without the support system traditionally provided by family. So anyone who is out there by themselves and they don't have that support, and some of the things to think about with that is, you know, how quickly can you call someone if you need help? Whether like you have an emergency, whether it's a medical emergency or just a emergency out there on the road. Are you like constantly relying on other services? Do you have a community? These are things to really consider. And so that's what I would think about when I think about solo aging. And some other descriptions are people without children, people without family, people who are estranged from family, and then people who whose family is far flung. And it could
Mhm,
be by choice or by circumstance.
mhm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate you giving that definition and all of the descriptors. You
Yeah.
know, from my story, when I saw your post, it really impacted me. I've
Mhm.
always had in the back of my mind about this kind of, I'm out here by myself. It
Mhm.
became abundantly clear in comparing my parents' journey. My sisters and I, we took care of my parents as they were aging. And I would drive, spend weekends with them, take them to
Yeah.
doctor's appointments. I took care of bills, all of that. I would go to doctor's appointments with them and be
Mhm.
there during the doctor's appointments. And I remember thinking for myself, I was like, who would do that for me? Because I don't have any
Yeah.
kids, you know?
Yeah, that's a reality check.
Right,
Yeah.
and, for the longest time, it's been fine, and then
Mhm.
this past year, I've, undergone some medical challenges, and I've had to have procedures that require you to go under, and so,
Mm.
when they put you under, you have to have somebody come with you. And
Yes.
this would stay. And so here I am in Atlanta, not really having a community, being new here and
Yes.
not having children. And I was like, well, who's going to do this? Who's going to stay? And the
Right.
first thing that happened, I actually flew my niece from Florida to
Wow.
go with me to a procedure. And so,
Yeah.
things like that have
Mhm.
always been there for me. And the fact
Yeah.
that when they say, what's your emergency medical contact when I'm filling out any forms, I'm like, my sister,
Right. Right. But then your sister wasn't in the same city or state.
Right.
Right. Makes
Yeah.
you think. It really makes you think.
It makes you think. And when you put that out there, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
this is a real thing. It has a name.
Yes.
And there's some things that I need to be looking at in terms of setting myself up for success. And I really need to be taking them seriously.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad it caught your attention because that was the point of why I put it out there, because when I first heard about it, I was just like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, it makes sense. This totally has a name, and now I gotta get the word out, gotta let people because you can hear things and know, okay, these are the things I need to do to get my financial house in order, but sometimes when it's put in a different way from a different perspective, then you're like, "Oh, wait, okay, those are all the things, but now I have another motivation for doing it," you know? And so, yeah, so it's powerful.
Right. Yeah. And I know I mentioned, I'm single, and I don't have any kids. Any good guys out there? Hello. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. That's not what this conversation is about.
Right, 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 right.
Uh, but unless you're gonna do it. But
Yeah.
seriously, but I read when doing a little bit of research after you put your post out there that married people can also find themselves in this solo-ager category. So how does that happen?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm going to back up just a little bit just to tell a little bit about how I even, heard about it because I was in as a certified financial planner, we have to get training and we get continuing education every year. And I just so happen to be really intrigued by the title of this solo aging. I've never heard of that. Let me attend that particular class, and then I get CE credit. It's a win-win. So I'm in the class, and the particular instructor, she told us the story very similar to yours. She actually, her story was where she was 50 years old or in her 50s,
Mhm,
just divorced, but she was taking care of her parents, her and her
mhm,
sister. And she was like, I've never had children, and I'm divorced. I've never had children. And wow, who's going to take care of me? And so it just, I totally was drawn in. And then she continued to give us the definition, just like I shared. And then she put a whammy on us and said, and by the way, if you meet this criteria as a married couple, you're also a solo ager. And I thought, wow, that really hit home. So basically, you can be a married couple. So I immediately, it became personal for me too, because my husband and I were married. We've traveled all over the country, lived in different places. And every time you move to a different place, you got to build a new community.
mhm,
And, you know, there were things that have happened over the year, or during times when we're living in these cities, where we're just like, oh my gosh, we both went out of town. A package is that, just sitting on the porch. Are we going to be able to, is somebody going to steal it? We had nobody to call to go pick it up, etc. So those are examples of, who are you going to call, even as a, do you have a community, even as a married couple? If you don't have children, will anybody be able to take care of you? My grandmother and my grandmother had like 10 kids, 9 that were living. And when she got sick, everybody was able to take turns. They were able to spread it out. My husband and I, we don't have children at this point. So we're who would take care of us, if it stayed the situation we're at now. So 30 years from now, we're in our 50s, 80, I mean, we're in our 80s, 90s, or whatever. Who's going to take care of us? That's why a married couple is still a solo ager, can still be a solo ager, because they still need all the things, all the community, all that support. And sometimes, obviously, like I said, it's by choice or circumstance, right? So there's people who want to be alone. They don't want to have, they don't want to have the kids. They don't want to have this. They want to be far away from family. But when you don't have that support system nearby, and, whether it's friends or family, you are still a solo ager. So obviously, you might have a little bit more time to buy because you got one other person there. But with women being typically having the longevity, most likely, a woman in a married couple situation, she's going to live longer. She'll take care of her husband. The likelihood is that she'll take care of her husband. And then now she's alone as well. So then there's a couple risks there if she doesn't have that community and that support. So she still has to think of, and that whole couple, they still got to think of their lives of, okay, how do we create this support system for ourselves? And so that's how, I know it was kind of a long answer, but that's how you get to that place of saying, oh, wait, as a married couple, we are solo agers. And recently, it's very recent, I was talking with some folks, and they were giving me their story, and they're a married couple, no kids. And I said, I know, you're looking to retire, do all these different things. And I know you said you had some children, but and it was like a later marriage, right? So they had one of the spouses had kids. So I was just like, so have you guys thought about what would happen and who would take care of you, or how you would be taken care of 40, 50 years from now? And they were like, no, I never thought of that. And come to think of it, um, we probably don't have anybody.
right,
Wow, I just never even thought about that. And I'm like, but what about the kids? Oh my goodness. I was like, the ones in the 30s? Oh no, I can't rely on them to take care of me, And it's, with everybody, this stuff changes, right? I mean, you might think, oh, okay, they're going to take care of me. But then what if they like say, I'm going to be 60 when you're 80, 90, and I want to move to Costa Rica, or I want to move to Africa and live there as a retiree?
Right.
So now, so they're, they're even going to consider, I dropped that in their head because I didn't use the term solo ager, but everything they were describing to me was, you are a solo ager.
Mhm.
And I need you to think about this. And they said, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. So it's all about planning for our future and being proactive, so that we can create the best situation for
Yeah.
ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just glad you brought that out around married individuals or married couples, because this conversation is really helpful for it's helpful for everyone. You know, we're talking about solo agers, which could include single folks, also married
Yes,
people. Some of the things that we're going to get in it, even if you have people around you to support and have
ab
children, you still have to be considering some of these things. So
absolutely.
appreciate that. And thinking about the solo aging, I know there were several risks that were associated, or maybe I should say challenges that
Mhm,
were associated with solo aging that
mhm.
people should consider. Could you talk about some of those risks?
Yes, absolutely. So, um, I'll just go through the list of risk. One is maintaining your health. So, um, I know that we'll probably dig into a couple real deeply in this conversation, but just briefly, maintaining your health. I mean, health is wealth. So, the woman that gave our presentation, she was presenting to us. She was in her 80s. And
Mhm.
she didn't even look like, she had a problem or anything, but she really emphasized to us that she learned in her 50s when all that happened, like, if nobody's going to take care of me, I better at least start taking care of my health right now. So, maintaining our health is so key. And she even joked about, her blood pressure went up and she was a little upset. And she was like, but I like potato chips, but I got to let them go for a little bit, So we chuckled about that. But, right now is the time to start, figuring out your health, figuring it out and taking the time to assess, am I really healthy or not? And
Mhm.
it's interesting because another class that I took, it was from a doctor turned financial planner. She said actually, the healthier you are now, and how you're maintaining your health now, can actually cost you more because it gives you more longevity and that type of thing. So living longer, we're now going to have to plan for you to have more money too. But we still want to be healthy, but she was just, that was an eye opener to me because we always talk about maintaining your health, but there are, clients that, I can work with, and I'll say, well, I'd rather plan for you to, live to 120 than, you live to, 90 and or 75 or something like that. And sometimes I get pushback, but because some people are just like, I don't want to live that long. Like, I don't, I'll live till 80, I'm good. I don't need to plan that far ahead. And I'm like, but what would happen if, and really, that particular class highlighted to us, look at how they're maintaining their health. If they're living a frivolous life right now, if they're not eating well right now, they might
Yeah.
be right. So why am I having them spend and save thousands of dollars every month, when they're telling me, Shahara, I'm good. Like, no, really. And I'm like, no, but I want you. So anyway, maintaining health is huge.
Yeah.
Having a faith community is big as well. So, being surrounded by people who are like-minded, like in how you serve, how your religious background, your beliefs, that's huge. Having a purpose, that's a big thing because obviously longevity, can equate a lot to purpose too. So that's huge. A huge another risk is getting help with rides, shopping, and running errands. So, one of the things that Carol, the lady who wrote the book, that we learned the lessons from, she talked about living in the suburbs versus living in the city.
Mhm.
And so she ended up realizing, I live in the city and or I live in the suburbs, and so to get to the grocery store, I have to drive. I can't even walk. So thinking about that, like how quickly can you get to places? And it's seeing how you should change your life from there. And then creating nearby support, that's another risk. Having that community, having people that you can call on. Home upkeep. So as we get older, do we have anybody to help us with our home, maintaining our home? It's costly as well, so that's a big part of your financial future too. Social engagement, having that social ability, like let's all get together. Can we, play games? Can we have a barbecue? Can I meet people for dinner? Like, do you have that? Do you have that? Assessing that. Any legal matters. So, do you have an estate plan? Do you have a will? Do you have a trust if necessary? Do you have a healthcare directive, of attorney, and then financial security, which encompasses so much? Like, are you saving enough right now? Do you have an emergency fund? Do you have debt that you need to attend to? Do you have savings accounts and things like that? So, these are several risks, and it's really important to go ahead and assess yourself, identify the top 3 risks. But before you do that, like do a assessment of each one. So 1, rate them like from 1 to 10. So 1 being I really need to work on this. 10 being I'm good. Everything's excellent. I've got everything I need here. So be honest with yourself, take that list, rate it from 1 to 10, and then start working on them. So identify the top 3 and then start to work on those. So give yourself like 90 days, like the Q2 is coming up as of the recording of this call. So basically, you got 90 days, break it out in the quarters, do from April to June, April, May, and June, and then just work on the first top 3, and then start to work on the next top 3, and take care of those risks. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just jotting down a couple of things like as we're talking.
Mhm.
Um, I think, one of the things that I think about when we're outlining all of these risks is it comes to preparation.
Yes.
And it's these are like when you're saying take an assessment, take stock of where you are, and then
Mhm.
do things to get you to where you need to be. Because it's too late
Absolutely.
once you need it. Because
Absolutely.
once you
Yeah.
need it, it's a little late.
I
And so you really gotta start
yeah.
thinking about these things, right now. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and I know here in this space, we could spend hours and hours talking through all of this, but I think
Really.
today what we'll do is we'll focus mainly on social engagement, a little bit about health and financial and largely on financial security as well. And
Absolutely.
from my story, I think all of this started to become relevant as I moved to Atlanta. And so
Yeah.
imagine, I feel like Golden Girls, picture it. It was Sicily,
Yeah.
1920. So it's 2020. We all know 2020, right?
Yes.
COVID, right?
Yes.
So I moved to Atlanta in the middle of COVID. I have
Yeah.
a couple of friends, but not a community, not my
Yeah.
community that I had in Florida, you
Mhm.
know, not my family,
Mhm.
my immediate family. And, we were grounded for work, and I am home alone and not doing much of anything. And
Yeah.
so for those of you all who know me, dance is my thing. Like that's what's kept me in shape for years.
Yes.
I
I
am
love dance.
still resting on my dance laurels from decades ago because I don't do it as much as I should. But
Yeah.
that's always been my go-to activity. And I
Yeah.
wasn't able to do that because it was
Mhm.
COVID. And unlike most of Atlanta, that was just wide open. Like that wasn't how I was rolling.
Right, right. It was like, what COVID?
Right, exactly. Like COVID, where? Who are you
Right,
talking?
right.
Who is that? What's their last name? Who they folks? But
Right, exactly.
so I was here and I was like, I need to, one, connect with people, right? And then two is I need to be more active. And
Yes.
so that's actually how I got to be a woman in tech with CoFit
I love it.
365. It's really collaborative fitness is where CoFit comes in and
Okay.
365 days out of the week.
I
And
like that.
just with that intentionality of moving. And some of you have heard my story. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I've shared a little bit about some of my health challenges, and definitely on Facebook I've shared. But my last thing is just this year has been about community. Like, and you talked about those risks. Having a faith community is one of them.
Yeah.
Social engagement. So it's really been about how am I focusing and thinking about my community, my and social engagement and interactions, my network,
Hmm.
and um, and so during the pandemic again, I was going to church online. Like I was a faithful
Yes.
online
So
attendant,
true.
and
Yep.
let me tell you that is difficult to break
It
because
is.
it's like, okay, I can just turn on church, hallelujah, praise you from my.
Right.
And one of my resolutions for this year is to actually find, because I don't even have a church home here in Atlanta, but is to find
Mhm.
and attend a church in person as a part of
That's
that faith community and
that's
that real
great.
community. Yeah.
That's a
Um,
great resolution.
yeah.
Definitely.
Another thing has been around friends, and so I've been trying to be more proactive about linking and connecting with girlfriends, for example,
Yes.
doing a girls' night just
I
to,
love that.
have that network and, and have that social engagement. And then I've gotten back into dance, and so I'm dancing
Yes.
regularly. And so I say this just kind of sharing my story because this really came from part of that realization back in COVID, moving
Yes.
to spinning off with, starting my company and then your solo aging
Yes.
really really had a lot to do with how I structured my 2024 New Year's resolutions because I said
Love
I have to be in the place where I'm at the low end on all of these risks. And so, what can I do to make sure that I'm addressing those things?
Yeah, I love that you took that proactive stance with it because actually, I mean, now is the time and they always say as adults, it's the hardest time to make new friends and to create that community. It's not easy.
Easy.
So, and it takes time. So, it's important to start now. It's important to start now, not from a place of stress and anxiousness, but from a place of intentionality and being purposeful and really connecting because those connections are so powerful. And I've been in the same situation, just my husband and I just with our moves and everything, right? So I'm looking forward, even in our new location, to start finding like a church home, getting involved, doing activities, meeting people, and doing those kind of things. And I've lived in so many different places and I've done this before, but it's like, oh wow, it's really hitting home now. Like maybe I need to settle down somewhere and pick a place.
Yeah.
Sat down somewhere,
I feel you on that because let me
right,
tell you, you couldn't have told me I was actually going to be in the United States. And now people, even when I moved to Atlanta, I literally moved to Atlanta in May, and my
yeah,
conversation with people be like, "So where you going next?" And
right, right,
I, I literally just got here 2 weeks ago. That was
right.
my life. It was like,
Let me
okay,
just,
so you're gonna be here, you're gonna be there,
yes.
you're gonna be in Ghana, you're gonna be in Dubai, you're gonna be in Honduras. Where you gonna be?
Hey, where are you gonna
Yeah.
be?
Where you
And
gonna be?
exactly. And that is something that I'm actually really seriously contemplating how to help people with that just because I remember, going to Puerto Rico earlier this year and a woman was sharing with me that I met at the airport. She was like, I'm retired, and I'm just traveling. And she was single. She wasn't married. She did have kids, but she wasn't in that, it wasn't as close. Like they might have been a 3 hour drive or something, which is not bad. But she was looking at moving to another country, and she was sharing with me that she found a community, and she's actually, she probably has already gone, but it was going to be in Panama City, where
Okay.
she was going to get a tour and learn about the expat community there and the retiree community. So you can find these things, and if it's a good fit, then she'll probably move down there because that's what her heart wants to do. And she's not concerned about, having her kids nearby, but she's just concerned about having a nice community where she can have people that where we've got each other's backs.
Mhm.
So it can be done without having family nearby and things like that. And there are, I know with the book that was written, Solo and Smart by Carol Merrick is her name, I believe. So Solo and Smart, she actually has a Facebook group for solo agers. And you have to be, I think, 60 or above or something. Like I looked at and I was like, "Oh, this is really neat," but okay, I can't get in. But she's been managing that group since 2016.
Okay.
So yeah, even with that, there is, and I just want to make sure I'm saying her name right. Yeah, Carol Merrick. But even with that, it's important to really start to think about creative ways where you're going to find this community. And it doesn't have to be, oh, let me just make it superficial or, or artificial. It can be very genuine and authentic as you move about trying to create this. And again, like I said, let me go sat down somewhere. It doesn't even have to be that either. Like you can, like that woman was sharing, I'm going to Panama City. I'm going to research it. I'm going to see what that community is like. Is it the place where I would want to live? Will I connect, link up with people, have that social engagement? And that's powerful. I will point out too, what Carol did, the lady who wrote that book, she was in the suburbs, and she was like, oh my gosh, to get to anywhere, to talk to anybody, I gotta drive somewhere, gotta drive to the grocery store, gotta drive to the urgent care or what have you. So she ended up taking, like, okay, let me get out of suburbia here in Texas and Dallas suburb, and she moved to downtown Dallas and into a high rise. And there's several solo agers in this particular high rise, and they all support each other. They'll, have events at each other's homes, or game nights, or maybe we'll go by the pool and everybody meet up. She can walk to the grocery store. The urgent care is nearby. She also has developed such a friendship that on her floor, one day she was cutting tomatoes or whatever, some vegetable, ended up cutting herself, but she ran down the hall, got, connected with her neighbor, and her neighbor took her to urgent care and helped her. So these are the examples of what the beauty of, starting off with that social engagement and building those strong relationships can do for you.
Absolutely. And I also, as a traveler at heart, uh,
Yes.
I appreciate you bringing up how you can find community in someplace else. It doesn't necessarily have to be here. And I know that was my experience when I lived in Honduras, is that I had a community. I had a church home. I had a
Nice.
community. Yeah, I was singing in the choir. I don't know why they let me
I
do
love
that.
it. I
Why
love
they
that.
let me sing in the choir? But anyway,
Yes.
I had friends outside of work,
Yeah.
and it was just like, it was something that they say the grass is greenest where you water it, right?
Yep.
And,
Yep.
I definitely watered that grass while I was there, and it embraced me. Um,
Yes.
and so that can happen in other places, but you have to be intentional about tending that grass.
You
So,
have to. I love
yeah,
that point. That's a
yeah,
very, you have to be intentional about it. You
yeah.
can't just sit at home like you said, like, oh, let me build a faith community, but I'm just going to go online and watch the church service, right? Like we have to get in there and get in person, and it's a powerful thing, and joining and finding, even with that, like when we talked about the faith community, finding a church where you can connect, where you see there is social interaction, and finding people that you can link up with. I know obviously there's a lot of online sites, even beyond, the faith community, but just online sites, like Meetup or something like that, where you can meet people that have similar interests. You mentioned dance. I love dance too. So, I'm always trying to figure out, okay, where in Dayton is there some type of dance thing? I used to actually teach line dancing. So that's how much I enjoy dance. And then during COVID, I did them online. I used to do like weekly online line dancing classes. And so I had people, joining in virtually, and I didn't see them, right? But they saw me. So I'm on the video just in my living room and
Uh-huh.
doing these line dances. And people did tell me it helped them get through COVID, right? So I did it from March to November of that year. But so that's the thing too. I love dance. I'm like, okay, I need to get back, work it out. And
Yeah.
that's usually, having my dance community, that's usually a great place to start. So really, we're talking about our love for dance, but what is your love? Is it pickleball? Is it, golfing? Is it skating? Is it, playing cards? Like find people that enjoy and have those similar interests and just start nurturing those relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue on with the conversation.
Absolutely.
And what I would love to talk about is kind of that financial planning aspect. And
Mhm.
so, my question is, what are the similarities in terms of financial planning for solo agers and financial planning for those who have the support of family members?
Yeah, and so really for me when I think about that, I mean, it's the same. It's the same. So I still think if you have a community, you have a supportive family, make sure you're still taking care of those risks that I mentioned. Because sometimes it's understood that daughter is going to be helping me, but she obviously didn't get the memo. So you have to communicate these things, with everybody. So, in terms of financial security and, all those other risks that we mentioned, you still need to, handle those, whether you're a solo ager or you have have that support system. All those things still need to be handled. But the reason why it's so imperative as a solo ager is that daughter, if you have daughter or son, they're going to be like, you know what, I need to do something. But if you don't have anybody, then that's why you've got to be very proactive. I mean, the hope is that, daughter or son will still help you, even if, you hadn't had a conversation with them about it. But you really want to, as a solo ager, like I said, take that action when it comes to the financial, security, really taking the time to look at your overall financial picture. So, do you have the liquidity that you need? Do you have the enough in your retirement accounts? Do you have enough savings? Like, are you saving properly? Do you have too much debt? Do you have not enough liquidity, like I said? So there's various areas that you still want to, look at, but as a solo ager, it's just way more pronounced between the two. It's just so much more pronounced.
Yeah. I know you and I had a conversation a while back when I was going through your initial program,
Yes.
and we were talking about life insurance. And so I had a question because I was like, I don't have any kids.
Yes.
Um, you know, Listen, I love my sisters, I love my nieces, I'm sure they got life insurance policies of their own. I
Right.
said I'm like, "I don't need to have a policy that has, like, $10,000,000 payout." Like, I'm like,
I hear you.
"Where but what do I need?" Like, do I should I put that someplace else? I wanna have a policy that's gonna cover my funeral expenses and, whatever, so no one
Right.
coming out of pocket, but
Right.
I be balling out of control in terms of what's left there. How else can I use that money considering while I'm alive, you know,
Absolutely.
and trying to retire and live in peace at 80 years old?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a great discussion, because it's very personal, and the answer to that is going to be dependent upon the person. So there's some people who want to be the rich auntie, right? Like I want to be the rich auntie. I'm going to send everybody several millions of checks, right? And then there's some who are just like, no, that's not, no, I don't, that's not my desire, right? So that's also a question that would have to be asked of yourself, like, what do I want to do with this? Life insurance as a single solo ager, I think it really, like I said, it really is going to depend on how you see yourself and what you want to leave for the next generation or for a charity or what have you. Also, the the concept of like, do you have a lot of debt and you want to make sure that's covered? That could be a point of why a single solo ager would, make sure that they get life insurance. But then there could also be um, locking in insurability. I mean, I've met people who got married at 55, 60 years old. Some people first marriage, never knew that they were going to get married, right? But it happened and that's what they wanted. And they're, 40s, they locked in on their insurance rate and was able to get a policy. And now, should something happen to them, that new spouse that they have can, benefit from that policy because they locked in. So a 40-year-old is going to do way better in terms of premiums than a 50-year-old or 60-year-old, even if have stellar health, your rate will go up as you age. So you can be a very healthy 50-year-old, but you're probably most likely going to pay more than a very healthy 40-year-old. That's definitely likely. But so there's some strategies with that in terms of, when do you decide for yourself, like, is this for me or is this not? Sometimes life insurance is a neat vehicle for long-term care and things like that. So, some people can get just straight pure long-term care, but then others might say, you know what? I don't want to just put everything into long-term care and then what if nothing happens to me?
Mhm,
So some people might say, well, I'll do a life insurance policy. At least there'll be a payout if I die. But if I do need long-term care, maybe I can draw from it. So, there could be some different reasons and strategies that people might use. So life insurance is a huge legacy, in terms of generational wealth, like that is a major thing to do. So like if you have like a IRA and you know that your beneficiaries are going to pull from that and they're going to have to pull and take out taxes from it, you can offset those taxes with a life insurance policy. So there's so many different um planning strategies that could be potentially used for life insurance. So it, like I said, usually the answers with financial planning is it depends, right? So there's different scenarios depending on everybody's situation and where they're at.
mhm. Yeah, I appreciate how you've kinda laid out some of the different uses for life insurance and how
Yes.
leveraged in different ways as well.
Yeah.
I think one of the things we talked about is the life insurance, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the financial planner, but a lot of times we have life insurance with our employer, but what happens once that employment ends? And so think of
Yes.
life insurance outside of that employer. So
Absolutely. Yes, you're totally right. You're right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you move to different employers and you can't take it with you. Now there are some employers that allow that, and the term we use is called portability, but basically, can I take it with me?
Mhm,
And, and so that is another reason why someone would want to get life insurance outside of their company, especially if you know that you're not going to be there forever. Now, the beauty of life insurance within the company is that if you have had several um, medical issues or concerns, the group policy typically has way lower um, requirements from a health standpoint. So sometimes if you're not insurable, that might be the only solution, you know. So yeah, I mean, life insurance definitely has its place. It's just a matter of where are you in your life and what do you need and who are the people you're, trying to leave money for, and or what strategy are you trying to put in place. And so yes, but yes, it's a good idea to have something outside of your job.
mhm.
Yeah.
So in terms of kind of life insurance, long-term care, retirement accounts, savings, I know you've touched on some things. Is there anything you want to double click on or stamp in terms of solo agers and these vehicles out there? I'll call them.
Yeah, I mean, really, if I can reiterate anything, and I think we've definitely put it throughout this time of our conversation, is start now. So, when I think about the story that I first heard when I first heard about solo aging, and Carol saying, I'm in my 50s, I'm divorced, I'm starting all over, what do I do? And so she was just like, she met with a financial planner and she learned, okay, this is what I'm going to have to do so that I can live the life I want, and all of that. And I mean, it happens, and so she became very diligent about saving, about putting away, maxing out her retirement accounts and things like that. That's what I can imagine. Because but she's also very healthy now, and I think retirement is different for different people. Like, I don't always use retirement, honestly. I use work optional because for me, it's really more universal, where you're just like, okay, some people want to retire and some people just want to have the choice to retire. So she's out there in her 80s speaking and going around the circuit, right? And she'll probably do that well into her 90s. But some people, but for her, she's at a place, I suspect, that she can make work optional. So she can just say, you know what, I don't want to do speaking anymore. And the reason why I don't want to is because I want to travel instead, or I just want to stay at home in my area and I have the funds to do it.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have to go to work or have to find speaking engagements and things like that, or write a new book, or, I mean, if that's what you want to do it. But those are the things to really start to think about. Think about the lifestyle you want.
Mhm,
How much is that life going to cost you? Take a look at your social security statement.
mhm,
Find out how much you're going to potentially get. They give you three ages: 62, 67, usually for our age range, for full retirement age, and then 70. Look at what those numbers are, and then look at like all your, qualified accounts. Qualified, I call it qualified term. And so look at all those qualified term accounts, your retirement, your 401k, your TSPs, your 403bs, 457 plans, IRAs, all that. And then you can start to mimic and see, like, how much income can I take off of that? And then you can start to see, wow, this is how much more I need to start saving to cover the lifestyle that I want to have and at the age I want to have it. So now is the time, if anything, now is the time, today is the time, um, the people typically, that urgency comes in, I think, in the 40s. But I'm like, if anybody's watching us in the 20s and the 30s, do it now, please.
absolutely.
Yes. like put away now because you can put like in the early ages, you put away way less to reach the same goal that someone who, you know, just realizes kind of like, what I mentioned at Carol at 50 starting in her 50s starting over, she has to put away way more than at that 25 or 30-year-old to
Yes.
get to the same place. So now's the time.
That was it,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, with that said, so first of all, now is our word that we're leaving with now.
Yes.
And I also want to talk about some how and some resources. So,
Yes.
Shahara, do you want to talk a little bit about like some programs, some resources, or even services that you provide that can support people wanting to solo age proof their lives? Feel free
Absolutely.
to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for me, right now, I am really, really focused on, as I started off, Black women STEM professionals. So, I do have a program called the Wealth Gap Closers Method, and I am opening up, or I have opened up for enrollments. So, people who are looking to get out of that place of being stuck or paralyzed or frustrated about their finances, but want a plan that inspires them and it's action oriented so that they can have that peace of mind and financial security. That those are the folks that I would love to chat with. So if you connect with me on LinkedIn, you can definitely DM me or message me through there. And then also for those who you're like, well, I don't really fit that. I'm not a Black woman in STEM. I'm not mid-career. I'm not any of that. We can take it from there by you actually, I'm offering to everyone just a quick free financial wellness assessment. So we'll be leaving a link in here and you can click in there and then I can just share with you what your score is. There's a scorecard that I'll generate for you based on the information you shared. And it's just a couple minutes and I would just highlight the areas that you want to focus in on. Especially as we're all focusing on the now and getting things done. So I'm definitely looking forward to offering that to folks that listen in.
Thank you, and definitely take her up on it. I know we did some work together, and it was really helpful for me, and so I'm looking forward to doing some more work with Shahara as I stop freaking out about the solo aging thing and
Yes, yes,
position myself um,
yes,
to endure well into my I'm like that person that said, I don't want to be that like living to my hundreds, but endure for a long time. But
yes.
but yeah, so thank you, Shahara, for joining me for the conversation, for being willing to, you know, give up some precious time on a Wednesday evening here when we live stream it. It may be a different time, but
That's right. Thank you for
stay
having me.
yeah, of course,
Yes,
and also just, for those of you in the Atlanta area, and you're looking to connect with people and engage in some movement-based activity,
I love
download the GoFit 365 app, and I'll make sure that that link's there too. And you can go to the website, it's cofit365.app, and you can find out more information. So we appreciate you all. Um, we are going to make it. This life is going to be great. 2024 is our year. I said it.
that's right.
And I'm claiming it for all of us. So y'all take care, and will be in the chat answering any questions that you'll have. So we look forward to any questions you have then. So take care, and we'll see you all next time.
See you. Thank you.